You didn't ghost them. You didn't blow up. You didn't even have a fight. You just stopped. Stopped texting back as quickly. Stopped suggesting plans. Stopped showing up in the ways you used to. And from the outside, it probably looked cold, abrupt, maybe even cruel. But on the inside, you were exhausted in a way you couldn't fully explain. There was this quiet knowing, this deep cellular level sense that something in that friendship had been slowly taking from you in ways you couldn't afford anymore. And the moment you finally gave yourself permission to step back, you felt two things simultaneously. Relief so profound it almost made you cry, and guilt so heavy it nearly pulled you back in. People like you don't walk away easily. That's the part no one talks about. Because here's what everyone gets wrong about empaths who end friendships. They assume it's impulsive. They assume you're flaky or avoidant, or that you just don't value people. And maybe someone has said that to you directly, accused you of being distant, hard to keep, too quick to disappear. Maybe you've even said it to yourself in darker moments. Maybe you've sat with the question, what is wrong with me that I keep outgrowing people or pulling away or needing so much space that friendships just dissolve? But here's what they don't see. They don't see the months, sometimes years, of showing up fully, giving everything, absorbing every emotional burden that person carried, holding space through crisis after crisis, and slowly, quietly emptying yourself out in the process. They don't see how long you stayed. They only see the leaving. And the leaving is the only part that makes sense to them, because they didn't feel what you felt the whole time leading up to it. They didn't feel the weight accumulating. They didn't notice the invisible transactions happening, the ones where you kept giving and the account kept draining and nobody was making deposits. You felt all of it, every single bit of it. And when you finally walked away, it wasn't careless, it was survival. But here's what I want to explore with you today, because there's something deeper going on. Empaths who walk away from friendships, not dramatically, but quietly, decisively, sometimes without explanation, usually share a very specific set of traits. And understanding these traits won't just explain your past. It will change the way you move forward. The first thing to understand is that you have an extraordinarily high sensitivity to emotional authenticity. What that means in real lived terms is this. You can feel the difference between someone who is genuinely present with you and someone who is performing presence. You can sense when a conversation has a hidden agenda. You can feel when warmth is conditional. You can't always name it, but your body knows. Your chest tightens. Your energy drops. Something in you braces. Most people can spend years in a friendship without ever consciously registering these undercurrents. You can't. You register everything. And this is both your gift and your burden, because once you feel it, once that knowing settles into your bones, you cannot unfeel it. You can try. You can rationalize it away. You can tell yourself you're being paranoid, too sensitive, too much, but the knowing stays. So when you walk away from a friendship, a lot of the time it's because you've felt something that the other person hasn't even consciously acknowledged yet. An inauthenticity, a subtle manipulation, a pattern of emotional one-sidedness. You've felt it accumulating over time, and your system reached a threshold before your conscious mind even caught up. The leaving can look sudden from the outside. It was anything but. The second trait, and this one might surprise you, is that you likely have an unusually strong relationship with your own inner world. You spend a lot of time in your own emotional landscape. You process deeply. You reflect. You sit with things. And because of that, you know yourself in ways that many people simply don't. You know what it feels like when a relationship nourishes you versus when it depletes you. You know the difference between a hard conversation that strengthens a bond and a hard conversation that leaves you feeling unseen and worse than before. You know when something isn't right, even when you can't fully articulate why. This self-knowledge is actually what makes you walk away. It's not avoidance. It's discernment. When a friendship consistently leaves you feeling smaller, more anxious, more exhausted, or more confused about your own reality, your inner compass registers that as incompatible with your well-being. And because you know yourself well enough to trust that compass, you act on it. Other people might override that knowing for years. You tend not to, at least not indefinitely. The third trait is something I want you to really sit with because it might reframe something you've been told is a flaw your entire life. You absorb, you take in other people's emotional states almost involuntarily. When someone around you is in pain, their pain moves through you. When someone is anxious, their anxiety finds a home in your nervous system. You cannot turn this off. It is not something you do intentionally. It is something that happens to you. What this means for friendships is that when a friendship is emotionally unbalanced, when someone leans on you constantly without ever turning the warmth around, you aren't just intellectually aware of the imbalance. You are living inside it. You are carrying their heaviness in your actual body. Over time, this creates a kind of energetic debt that your system begins urgently trying to resolve. Walking away is sometimes the only way you know how to stop the bleeding. And this isn't weakness. This isn't you being selfish or incapable of handling closeness. This is your system protecting itself and actually protecting the friendship too, because staying when you're running on empty doesn't serve either of you. The fourth trait is one that takes people by surprise. You have a deep, almost aching need for genuine reciprocity. Not just they show up for me sometimes reciprocity. Real, felt, soul-level reciprocity. You want to be truly known. You want someone to ask how you are and actually want the real answer. You want a friendship where you don't spend the entire time managing the other person's feelings while yours stay invisible. You want to be held, not just to hold. And when that isn't there, when you look across the table at someone you've invested everything in and realize they don't actually know who you are, or worse, that they haven't tried to, something in you quietly closes. It's not anger most of the time. It's more like a soft, sad resignation, a recognition, an acceptance that this isn't the connection you need. And then, slowly the distance begins. There's one more thing woven through all of these traits, and I think it might be the thread that ties everything together. You feel things in advance, not psychically, though some of you might smile at that. What I mean is that you sense the trajectory of relationships before the evidence fully catches up. You can feel where something is heading. You can feel when a friendship has quietly peaked, when it's beginning to calcify into something that no longer has room for who you're becoming. You can feel when someone's growth is pulling them in a different direction from yours, or when you are outgrowing a dynamic that used to fit. And instead of waiting for the dramatic ending, the fight, the falling out, the inevitable painful confrontation, you sometimes simply begin to release, quietly, privately, without ceremony. Because in your experience, endings rarely go well. Trying to explain what you felt, trying to articulate that invisible accumulation of imbalance almost never lands the way you hope. So you do what makes sense to you. You honor the relationship by letting it end gently rather than watching it collapse. What this looks like from the inside is grief with nowhere to go. You mourn friendships that technically haven't ended yet. You carry a bittersweet tenderness for people you're slowly releasing. And because you don't explain, because the other person doesn't always understand, you sometimes carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. Here's what I want you to hear. Releasing a relationship that no longer sustains you is not a character flaw. It is emotional intelligence so sophisticated that most people don't have the vocabulary for it. The problem isn't that you walk away too easily. The problem is that the world hasn't given you the framework to understand why you walk away or the language to honor it without shame. You have it now. So what do you do with all of this? Because understanding something intellectually is one thing. Carrying it forward in a way that actually shifts how you live is another. Here are three things, not prescriptions, not rules, just invitations. The first is this: start distinguishing between releasing and abandoning. These are not the same thing, but they can feel identical when you're in the middle of them. Releasing is a conscious, compassionate act. It means you recognize a friendship has run its natural course, or that it's costing you more than it's giving, and you allow it to naturally recede. Abandoning is leaving in a way that leaves damage in them, in you. Most of the time you're doing the former while accusing yourself of the latter. Notice the difference. Give yourself the accurate word. Releasing is okay. Releasing is sometimes the most loving thing. The second invitation is to practice saying goodbye to yourself first before you fade. What I mean is this: before you quietly disappear from someone's life, take a moment to privately acknowledge what the friendship meant, what it gave you, what it cost you, what you're carrying forward from it. Empaths who walk away without processing the ending often find themselves haunted by it, not because they made the wrong choice, but because the grief never had a place to land. Give it a place. Write it down. Light a candle. Say their name out loud and thank them silently. Let the ending be real, even if it was quiet. The third thing is perhaps the most important. Let yourself want what you actually want in friendship, not the scaled down version, not the I'll take what I can get version. You are someone who is capable of extraordinary depth, extraordinary presence, extraordinary loyalty. That is not a small thing to offer someone. The friendships that are right for you are ones where that depth is met, not managed, not tolerated, not occasionally appreciated, but genuinely met. They exist. They are not a fantasy. But you will only find them or let them find you if you stop settling for connections that slowly drain you and calling the settling humility. It is not humble to shrink yourself into a friendship that doesn't fit. It is just lonely. You came here, I think, because some part of you needed to hear that you aren't broken, that the way you move through relationships carefully, deeply, and yes, sometimes by walking away, isn't a sign that something went wrong in you. It's a sign that something is working exactly as it should. You feel too much to pretend. You know too much to stay somewhere your soul has already quietly left. And yes, sometimes that looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like distance where warmth used to live. Sometimes it looks like a friendship that just ends without a proper goodbye. But underneath all of it is a person who wanted nothing more than real connection. Someone who gave everything they had and kept hoping it would be enough. Someone who is still, even now, learning how to honor their own limits without hating themselves for having them. That person, you, deserves friendships that feel like breathing. Easy, sustaining, natural. Not every connection will be that, but some will. And you will know them when they arrive because your whole body will exhale in a way it hasn't in years. Keep going. Keep choosing yourself, not instead of others, but alongside them, with honesty and care. If this is the kind of conversation you've been searching for, the kind that sees you before you even finish the sentence, I'd love for you to stay. There's so much more of this ahead. Subscribe if you feel at home here, and drop a comment below telling me which part of this resonated most. I read them, every single one, because you deserve to be heard, not just in your relationships, but here too.